3,999 pounds. Now, I'm at 99.5% auto issue. I'm down to 3 technicians that are issuing permits. And what's nice about it is, all those easy permits that go in and out all day, now I've got personnel to actually sit down and talk with each one of you when you have a unique load that needs night movement, it needs, additional, bucket trucks, it needs certain scenarios, additional traffic control, things like that. I have time and personnel that can actually individually take care of your needs and your issues. So that's what, technology has done for us over the last few years. We've done the auto routing in that system. Now, if you have a scenario where you need to have a bridge analysis, it doesn't even come in front of a human being. It automatically goes up the bridge. That's the ones for like over 300,000 pounds. It doesn't even come into us, and that's just happened in about the last 6 months. Things are happening very, very quickly. I also, if you're over like 30,000 pounds, automatically send a message over research and deny it. They do a payment analysis. That's all automatically happening. It's really crazy. Law enforcement, they can go in, they can see what you've got, what permit you've got, what type of violations you've had. We have connections with CV, we've got connections with the US DOT, and take a look at background, see if there's any out of service issues. So the technology is constantly advancing, getting faster and faster. Some of the things, I know Kyle mentioned some things earlier that we're working on, and amongst the states this morning, some of you might didn't have the opportunity to come in and hear. We have 37 states altogether. We're talking about harmonization of a standardized permit process, or the standardized permit face, so we're all going to look alike. And that's going to help all the Bentleys and the Pro Miles and all the groups, including Illinois, because we're a standalone system, to be able to standardize that application, standardize that permit to see what they look like. And they'll be able to transfer it, and it'll be better for the future in case we do start communicating with each other. Permit security, we're adding some bar codes. The only thing I knew about a bar was it served cold drinks. Now we're going to put it on a permit to make sure that it's harder to falsify. There's some bad people out there in the industry, and we put a couple of them in jail. One of them just went back to jail last week. But true story. So, we've got to do things to make sure things are safe and secure and efficient. As Kyle did mention, we are experiencing, and we're looking at an auto measuring system where you pull into a scale, it measures you, it looks at your US DOT number on your truck, reads your plate, goes to the scale before you even get there, matches it up with your permit, so when you stop at that scale, here's your permit. You said you're 16.5, here's your permit at 16.5, the auto reader, the auto measuring device said you're 16.5. Your axle spacings, here's your axle spacings. And it's all going to match by your weight because you're going across the high-speed scale. So that is what's coming. That is coming very, very quickly. So very, very exciting. That's what we got going on in Illinois. I've got 3 guys here that are going to talk about very unique areas and what they're specialized in. They come in with their own little special advanced technological advances in their own areas. With me today, I've got Wes Molino from West Coast Permits. I've got Tim Pilcher from Pro Miles, and I got Mike Morgan from Pit Road. So with that, let's start with Wes. You want to start with things that's going on West Coast Permits?
Thank you, Gino. Appreciate that. I'm going to grab this quick. Hope you don't mind. I'll sit down here instead. First off, full disclosure, I'm not a public speaker. I give one speech at Christmas to my company every year. And after the speech this year, I sat down and I was so proud of it. Somebody said, that was your best speech ever. Only 27 ums this year. I apologize for the ums in advance. Hopefully you can put up with me for a couple of minutes here. I first off want to talk about permits from a permit service standpoint. How we see them from a private company, and how we see what a permit service is today as opposed to what it once was. Transportation companies, logistics companies, private permit services, anybody who has a lady, a guy, a department, you're running a permit service to an extent. And you run across all the same pitfalls that we do as a private permit service. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of go through the evolution of permits just for a quick minute, and then I want to talk about what's coming. So Once upon a time, the fax machine was invented in 1964. By 1970, they were all over the place. Gino kind of started to hit on that a little bit. Gino, you probably recognize that 4-minute machine right there per page. But in its day, it changed our industry. And by the way, that picture right there is one of my favorite pictures. That picture is an A-12 spy plane that was the predecessor to the SR-71 Blackbird. And if you go on our website, you can see there's an entire documentary of that move, including ground surveys, high poles, detailed pictures, a story about the entire move. It went from Skunk Works in Burbank, California to Area 51. So pretty neat. And, you know, as long as we're talking about the past before the future, that's glad to throw that in there as one of my favorite pictures. Moving forward, kind of getting, moving towards technology. When I first got into permitting, the big argument when I was first writing permits was handwritten versus computer. People fought against the computer altogether. And obviously the computer won, the internet soon followed. After that, emails have kind of taken over our life, haven't they? Software development has been huge. These guys are going to talk a little bit about their side of that as well. Self-issued permits have already been a topic today, and they're going to continue to be a topic for some time to come. Compliance, we'll talk about in a minute, but that's an ever-changing thing. Companies develop apps like we have, tools for convenience. Mobile tablets are allowing electronic permits to be sent now. Electronic permits, as of today, I believe 26 states are allowing electronic permits. And 2 years ago, I'm not sure there were any. 2 years from now, I would bet that everybody's allowing them. And within a couple of years after that, we may see that paper permits are no longer allowed. Harmonization, that's been a huge topic here at SC&RA, and a very relevant topic, and it will continue to be. It'll play a big part in, I believe, the future of our industry, and it'll help us put our technology together. The next 10 years. So I believe, from a permit service standpoint, that the next 10 years are going to have a lot to do with integration. Certainly, a couple different people have already hit it. Kyle hit on it a little bit. I think Gino hit on it just a little bit about GPS technology, route planning, the truck telling you which way to turn. At some point, scales are already going to know what you're moving before you even pull in, and you're not going to have to display a permit for them at all. The truck will tell them what you have, and the computers will all tell them what they want to do with you. The big question for me is email. I don't know about you, but I get 200 to 400 emails a day. And some days I feel like email runs my life. I don't believe that a truck driver should be, I don't believe that a truck driver should be receiving emails. I feel that there's a better way. And I feel that there's a better way for all of us to communicate, and I think that that's coming. I do believe permit services are going to continue to be very necessary. Currently, our system, we pulled it up today just to see how many different agencies we issue permits for, and we have over 2,100 different agencies on our list. So with the integration, permit services are going to be necessary for quite some time to come. In what form, I'm not sure. It'll continue to be private permit services. I'm sure trucking companies will continue to develop their permit services or their permit departments. I believe this is all about integrated permitting the next 10 years. And it's a term that we've kind of coined. And integrated permitting to us is a couple different things. Integrated permitting is accountability, it's compliance, and it's transparency. It's, with regards
regards to accountability, it's how does your permit department and your dispatch department and your driver assume their responsibility? And as a company, how are you developing that responsibility in a way where it's easily understood what they have to do and how they're receiving it? Compliance, whether we like it or not, is probably the biggest word used in our industry, right? In the trucking industry. All parties have to understand requirements, regulations, timeframes, details of the project. In order to be in compliance, in order to do things right from a permit standpoint, how as a company are you verifying that your driver has the proper attachments for his permit? How are you verifying that he knows what his curfews are? How are you verifying that he knows that he has a local permit at the end of his route that he needs to be waiting for? I also believe that in integrated permitting with the company, there should be full transparency. We believe that from management to the permit department, to dispatch, to the driver, to the sales team, everybody should have access to what's going on with the load, both during and after. And after doesn't seem like a big deal until you're the salesperson or until you are whoever's doing quoting for the company and you need to have access to what happened to that on a load 6 months ago. You need the ability to research and have everything at your fingertips. And this accountability, compliance, and transparency is kind of what we've come to modify our existing system that we use for ourselves. And we're opening it up to the entire industry. So we debuted this week. We call it integrated permitting. And it's accountability, compliance, and transparency. Our system allows for a permit person, whether it be in a trucking company or at a permit service, to order permits in any way they see fit. Now, this system does not order the permits for you. This is a organizational tool. Every accounting department has accounting software. Dispatch departments have dispatch software. Permit departments need to have permit software. And what this does is organizes your permitting life. It allows the permit writer to, for example, order their own Ohio permit, and on the next line, order a Pennsylvania, and click it and send it out to the service, or to WCS. It allows you to use any service that you want, but it does specifically, you can specifically send them to our service. It also allows communication with the driver, and it allows for a little bit of a guarantee with regards to compliance. The system will automatically text and email, although, as I said, our goal is to get away from emails. A driver, when he's in a safe spot, can click one button and view his permit. And when his permit comes up, it comes up as his entire order, and it shows it from start to finish. It shows the basics of his load, and then it shows each agency that he'll be traveling through and the order that he'll be traveling through them. And if there's attachments, it automatically puts the attachments with the permits. The system will also be transparent between the different permit writers. Most trucking companies that do some permitting don't do it all themselves. And in this case, permits are coming from different places on sometimes a very regular basis. And for the driver, it allows it to be seamless. The driver receives the text regardless of where the regardless of who issued the permit. When the trucking company gets a permit in, they drag and drop it onto the permit line in their order, and it automatically sends a text to the driver. The driver's app opens up, and it shows him exactly what he has and what he's still waiting for. If there's a green light, his permit's in, he can touch the green light, his permit opens up. If there's a red light, he's still waiting for it. So if that driver's going to Long Beach, California, and knows that he needs a Los Angeles County permit, or maybe doesn't know that he needs it, when he gets his very first permit in order, it's going to show him all of his permits, and it's going to show him that he has an LA County permit at the end of it, and it's also going to include the attachment. These are the kind of things that I think need to happen over the next 10 years. This is our current solution to it. We're constantly working to advance and to come up with new and better ideas to make the industry safer and smoother, and for both drivers, dispatchers, permit writers, safety to sales, management, everybody to be able to see and have a clear view of what's going on in their permitted loads. That's all I have for my 10 minutes or however many I took.
So let me ask you, can an old guy like me learn how to utilize something like that? If you just hired me, say I retired this week, and I come and work for you, can you teach me how to run that system inside, or does it come with training, or what? How's that work?
Well, we will train anybody who wants to use the system.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's a chance. There's a chance. You have a flip phone or an iPhone? All right. You're not a flip phone guy. You can do
your
it.
time too, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot to the system, but it's very user friendly.
Well, it's impressive. I have not played on that side of the world, which probably I should. So anyhow, I'm very impressed. With that, thank you very much. We'll have some more time in case somebody has some questions near the end. Thank you, Wes. I appreciate that. With that, we're going to go to Tim Pilcher. If you don't know Tim, Tim's with Pro Miles, and he's actually working on that little project we were talking about earlier about going on in Illinois and as far as our audible directions. So, hey, Tim, you want to share some of your latest concepts on innovation and technology?
Yeah, I'd love to. First of all, I want to thank Stephen Todd. When he sent this off, I interpreted the subject for this to be what's permitting going to look like in 2030. I got to be honest with you, I have a lot of fun. So basically, it's going to be better permitting technology, but my prediction is no better roads. All right, before we get started, here's some assumptions that I've made I think are going to hold true for permitting in 2030. First of all, the State Oversized Overweight Permit Office will continue to play a prominent role. I think all loads, including envelope permit loads, will be routed through these systems. Each state permitting system will continue to be unique and special. More local permits will be required. And also, I'm a firm believer that humans will still be driving oversized overweight permits loads and the escort vehicles that go with them. And I think there'll be a few holdouts. Not all of the states will have automated routing. The map will still have a little bit of red on it. So I think e-credentials are going to be a big part of 2030. Permits are going to be delivered directly to the driver. The e-credential system will enable the permit and its route to be delivered directly to the driver in the vehicle. Law enforcement will be able to review the permit without touching the paper permit or the driver's device. In 2030, paper permits will still exist, but be few and far between them. I also believe that the very last fax machine, last fax will ever be sent will be an oversized overweight permit. Whether that's before or after 2030. Technology for following the route. I think it's critical for the truck drivers and the escort drivers to be able to follow the state-provided routes. Routes are getting more complex. Technology currently exists for drivers to follow routes. I think this technology will be part of the credentials, and I think in 2030, route following software is likely to be mandatory, at least in some states. Permit system communication to the driver. The route following technology allows the driver to be notified when a change happens in the route. Right now in these systems, you get an email. There's a sample of one right there from Mississippi that went out not too long ago. I think in 2030, permitting systems will directly notify the drivers of the restriction route changes. And I also think that by 2030, hopefully much sooner, the drivers will be able to ability to obtain envelope permit routes on their device. Probably not order, but to route envelope permits on their device. Permit system communication with dispatch. I feel that in 2030 that this will happen. There's soon going to be technology that allow existing or authorized industry systems to access ready routing directly from the state permitting systems and also submit permit applications without human intervention. This automated routing will be added directly to the load bidding process. When the load's dispatched, the permit application will be automatically submitted to the state permit system. After issuance, the permit and the route will be sent directly to the driver. And advanced industry systems will be able to connect routes from multiple states together automatically. And I think in 2030, it's going to be common for the entire process, from bid route to route finish, to be fully automated. So in summary, permitting technology in 2030 is the technology will assist with all stages of the permitting process. It'll be route integration with state systems for road building, Technology will automatically incorporate size and weight from the vehicle into the permit application. Dispatch will automatically submit the permit application to the state system when the load is dispatched. Permit route will be sent directly to the driver or the device in the truck. The driver will follow the route using in-cab technology, and then the state permitting systems will notify the driver directly if there are any route changes. But they won't make complete bed of roses in 2030. Industry technology will need to be able to work with multiple state systems. I feel super loads are going to continue to require some significant manual work. Route surveys, I think, will continue to be needed, and whether they all go LiDAR or not, I'm not sure, but they're still going to be required. I think more local permits will need to be obtained. While I feel the states, vast majority of the states will be able to incorporate all this cool new technology by 2030, where that sits on the local permits, Albany County orders a couple hundred permits a year. Whether or not they'll be able to have all this in there is still an open question. And not all states will have automated systems. I'm happy to say that early progress to this 2030 technology currently exists. Most of these emerging permit technology for 2030 can now be found in the new Permit Manager product. This is a partnership between PIVRO, Nova Permits, and ProMod Software Development Corporation. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm impressed. So you think that we're going to have automation directly to the drivers in 2030?
Well, I'm hoping in 2020. I think it's extremely tough.
I think you're pretty kind. Yeah, I was going to say by then I think you have it. So, if I was a driver and I've got my route and I'm a permit, I'm still a state agency. Holy moly, it'll put me up there, big number. But in 2020, I'll be up there quite a bit. So I send your driver a change. We just did a bridge inspection. That bridge is no longer good for your weight. So it'll go through my system, up to the cloud, down to your driver, hopefully with some type of communication that's out in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of some of these states are pretty rural. They'll be able to receive that information. The driver will be very happy to change his route.
That probably isn't 2020, but I am positive. I got $5 that says it's 2030.
I think it'll happen. I'm total support of this. I think it's a very neat initiative. I give you kudos for kicking this off. I think it's going to happen. Everybody in the room thinks that something like it's going to happen. This is just happening so fast. It's extremely cool to be listening to some of this stuff. So, but do you have any concerns? Do you have any fears?
Not really, no. There's going to be a lot of bumps on the road. The biggest problem, of course, is not every agency can justify $1 million system. I mean, I think we talked to Rhode Island, for example, and 10,000 permits. I mean, that's $100 a permit. To get even the minimum system out there. So I think at some point something's going to have to be figured out. And also with the with the local permits too. That's another big thing that I'm concerned with. And in New York, for example, we're pioneering, being able. It's not done somewhere else.